In today's podcast, we discuss my latest PC problems, some motion design events we all visited, and the future of Grayscale Gorilla Plus. And hey, speaking about Grayscale Gorilla Plus, I wanted to let you guys know before we get started on the podcast that October 31st is the last day to get Grayscale Gorilla Plus at its introductory pricing. Go check out the site. We have an all new offering, including our new material pack. Go check it out before October 31st. And now, on with the show. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Grayscale Gorilla podcast. It has been too long. And with me today, we have Chad Ashley. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, feeling good, man. I'm going to introduce the next guy here. Get ready to introduce Michael Marr. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy, guys. I'm wearing a hoodie right now. It feels so nice.
With hoodie weather in Texas? Come on. When does that happen?
Not very often. I'm enjoying while I can.
It's only 85 degrees there.
Hey, get the siren ready. Get the foghorn ready. Is it a foghorn or is it a DJ horn? Get it ready,
the air horn.
Because I want to introduce a new member to Grayscale Gorilla and to the podcast. Please give it up and get the foghorns up for Todd Blankenship. How are you, good sir?
Hey. Oh, there it is. That is a lovely welcome. Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the podcast. Todd, we're going to talk more about kind of what you've been up to here at Grayscale Gorilla. We're so excited to have you. But first, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. I live near Mike, so it's nice to be able to go outside and not be punished immediately. It's nice out. And
yeah. So tell me what is hoodie weather in Texas? What give me some numbers here.
What do you think, Mike? Like 95 degrees?
Oh yeah, easy.
You take whatever excuse you can to put on a hoodie around here. But actually, like right now it's like 72 degrees out. So yeah, it's super nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I stood outside, drank my coffee a little bit this morning, and I was like, oh man, this is what life is supposed to be like.
Yeah,
I love it.
How cold does it get in Texas in the winter?
It can actually get pretty cold. I mean, it threatens to snow at least once or twice a year.
Yeah, we get ice, but that's mostly it. Not like beautiful snow, just gross ice.
How do you survive?
And everyone crashes their car. It's great.
All right, so look, a lot going on. And it's been a long time. We've put out some podcasts, but we haven't done one of these group podcasts. Mike, why don't you talk about some of the other podcasts we put out? Because if those of you listening out there haven't heard them, they're really awesome interviews that we put out. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so we mentioned this in a past episode where you're going to start seeing some more of this show kind of delve into new topics and things like that. And a big part of that is interviewing a lot of popular 3D artists, motion designers, people in the industry. We've released a few of these. So if you remember last time we talked about how we were traveling, we'll get to that in a bit about all the shows we've been to. So while we were away, we dropped a podcast with Andy Needham. We talk about kind of his work. We talked about Cinema 4D R21 and some of the training that he actually produced for us here at Grayscale Gorilla Plus. And then there's another episode which is really great if you are a horror fan or an action fan. We talked to Amador Valenzuela, and he talked to Chad about a lot of the feature film titles that he's worked on, including the latest John Wick, which he actually used a few of our materials and assets in, and a couple other big movies that he's worked on with the guys over in Filmograph, which is a great studio over in LA.
It's a good group over there. So if you haven't checked those out, those are up on the podcast right now. We're going to have more of those interviews coming soon. But I figure what we'll do today is kind of catch up. It's been a while. We've been to a ton of events since the last big podcast. Everything happened. We had Blend Fest. I was over in Vancouver. I could talk a little bit about that. We had Half Res. We were all in Chicago for that. And there's also the Maxon Roadshow happening right now. They don't call it a roadshow. What do they call it, Mike?
It's the 3D Motion and Design Tour.
3D Motion and Design Tour. And I've been quite a few of those events and about to do a few more, including New York. And those have been extra fun. Chad, which ones have you been to?
I did Montreal and Chicago. And yeah, they've been great. Those have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really cool to. So they have these panels and get to kind of hang out on stage and answer questions from the audience. And Matthias runs a really nice little Q&A about kind of where the 3D industry is these days. So it's been really a good way to kind of catch up with other artists that are in town, and also just kind of talk about 3D and Cinema 4D in general. So they've been good.
I've got a funny story about the Montreal one.
Oh baby, hit
If
me.
you guys want to hear it.
Do tell.
So yeah, so the way that the roadshow, I got to stop saying roadshow, 3D design and motion tour. Is that right? Did I say that right?
I think that's close.
Okay, that's close enough. Anyway, they do a really good job of like starting the session out with sort of an intro demonstration that Matthias runs, and he does this really great job of doing like this extruded logo type thing, and he does some other things with it as well. But actually, no, I think this was in Chicago. This is in the Chicago show. He's up there on stage going through his spiel about, 3D titles and stuff like that. And somebody actually interrupted him during that and raised their hand. And he was like, yes. And the person said, excuse me, aren't 3D titles passe? And everybody was like, what? And like, we ended up like, this was heaven on earth for me because I just love uncomfortable situations like that. So I'm just staring at Matthias like, what's he going to say? How's he going to react to this? And he was the consummate professional. He was like, well, we're not going to get into the theories of what may or may not be in fashion, but I will say that there are plenty of studios making a living doing 3D titles for movies and blah, blah, blah. He handled it so well. It was amazing. And
my gosh.
it was just all we could talk about for the rest of the day was this guy just like grilling Matthias on
I can
stage.
imagine. Was there like an audible sound in the room, like when he said it? Like everyone just kind of goes like,
yeah, there was like not a gasp, but there was almost like a silence. I think I might have actually started laughing. I don't remember. But I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then afterwards I was like, welcome to Chicago. This is how we do it. Yeah. Just a bunch of jerks in Chicago.
Especially in Chicago, man. Like that's broadcast like central, man. If there's not a flying logo in Chicago, where is there? Man, that's the hub.
I know. And so it was pretty funny. Matthias handled it really well.
Yeah, I got to say, thumbs up to Matthias, man. He's running this show. He's obviously got a lot of help in getting it all set up, but he's the one running around, going city to city every other day. He's in a new city, meeting people, doing this presentation, running the event, running the Q&A. He's just rocking it. He's always been such a great part of that company. It's always cool to see him. I'm excited to see more of him in the near future. They got what are the other shows I'm going to be at? Because this might go out before the next ones. That's what I have to go find out. I will get you that answer, folks. It's been so busy. I don't even know where I'm going next month, but
definitely New York. Don't forget that one. I think that's like next week.
New York is next week. That is, as we record this a week from now. And then I want to say Denver is definitely a go. And I want to say there's one more I'll find out and try to get on this podcast. So stay tuned. There's a little teaser. They call that one. So what else? We got the roadshow. We got Half Res, which was amazing to go to Half Res and not have to be on stage. That was the first time in how long has Half Res been? 8 years. I was able to go to Half Res and just enjoy it from the audience perspective and like see all my friends in Chicago and see you guys. We had the whole Grayscale Gorilla team there. And it was just great to catch up with everybody. Any notes from Half Res? I know that was a few weeks ago, but
I think that was like Todd's third day.
Yeah, that was my intro to the company. Was going to Half Res, so that was a really, really fun trip for me, and that event was awesome. Like I really had a good time there.
Yeah, it was so great to catch up with Chicago friends that I just don't get to hang out with as much as I want, but also people that fly in and drive into that show. It's just getting bigger and bigger. So it's really nice to just kind of catch up with the Cinema 4D crowd, the 3D crowd in general. And then just after that, I took off to Blend. Now Blend is something I've heard about a lot. I don't think they do it every year. I think it's every other year they do Blend Fest. And because I started all this stuff as like the After Effects guy, I've always kind of looked at this Blend thing like, man, I want to go. It felt a little bit more 2D, felt a little bit more focused on like traditional motion graphics. And so I went this year. I was so excited to go and kind of experience this thing, and I was blown away. It was way. I don't know what I quite expected, but it blew my expectations out of the water. It was such a very artist friendly, very thoughtful. The presentations were very thoughtful, amazing presentations from studios, and it was really cool to catch up with, like School of Motion was there. Always loved their whole team, and catching up with Joey, and then a lot of Chicago friends were there. Got to catch up with my buddies, but also got to see some amazing presentations. And a lot of them, surprisingly, were from Detroit. Detroit seemed to be the big buzz at Blend. And so for those of you who might not know, I know a lot of people think I'm still in Chicago. I'm in outskirts of Detroit right now. Try to make it down to more of the meetups and go kind of learn a little bit more about what's happening in Detroit. And Detroit's having a moment right now. It was really cool to see Gunnar there doing presentations back at Half-Res, Boxfort, and Julie and Billy and her crew, and Nick were out at Half-Res doing their thing. They're from Detroit. And there's just this like sense of Detroit buzz happening right now that I just gotta kind of feel all warm and fuzzy about because I'm over here. But I guess it's more of an invitation for you listening to go check out the titles from Blend, who is mostly made by Gunnar, who's here in Detroit, and go check out the titles for Half-Res this year, which also came from Detroit. So just go check those out and see some of the work that's happening here in this little city of mine. And so what other things happen here at Half-Res and these other shows? Any other stories from Half-Res?
None that we can talk about on the air. But to go back to the Blend thing, like the Blend titles just completely blew me away.
They're beautiful.
They were so good. It was like really well done, really fantastical, imaginative, just a great execution. I was really like, wow, that's some really thoughtful animation.
Speaking of, did you also see School of Motion's new titles? They had like a big article that went out with a new like statement of who they are, really, about their movement.
I think that thing was awesome. I think they're doing such a great job over there. I really love when they put those big mission statements out, because I think it helps the entire industry. Like, we're all obviously doing online education, and they're absolutely killing it right now. Who did those titles, by the way? Those were awesome.
I think J.R. Canist did some of it. I don't know if he did the whole thing, but I think his studio.
I think, did it.
Yeah, they were so awesome. Great blend of like 2D and 3D, and it's just so good.
Yeah, that thing is like, you go through that thing frame by frame, like over and over and over, just to see how they did all the various transitions and stuff. It is really impressive.
Dude, it's better than most client work. I would say that, like, I'm gonna guess and say agencies all over the country are gonna be grabbing that and like showing it to people. Like, hey, can we get this? Can you give us this?
Right. Oh man. Well, I know we have podcast notes somewhere. So if you're listening to this through iTunes, maybe head back to the website. We're going to have some show notes linking to all this stuff. Can we get links to these awesome title sequences? Because I highly recommend putting these things on the big screen, turning it up. The sound design on these are awesome as well, and just really enjoying them. Like, those three titles for those three things we mentioned are some of the best out there right now. So it's awesome. It's great stuff, man. I will definitely be trying to go to Blend again next year. And Gosh, what else has been going on? I want to give you a quick update with my PC because I've had some issues, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what the heck Todd's doing here. We still haven't done that. We got a whole show. Let's go do it. So my PC, those of you asking may have seen a video that I recorded a month ago and saw my little iMac in the background and asked, many of you very smartly asked, where in the heck is your PC? And I'll just give you the kind of quick overview. I have been having issues with my PC since I got it. What's frustrating about it is that as a new PC owner, I didn't know that if it was just something that all PC owners were going through, or if I uniquely had like something wrong with my machine. And because I didn't really have anything else to compare it to, I just kind of thought like, I guess this is just the life of a PC owner, is like constant issues with driver updates. Every once in a while, I would turn my computer on and it would go to like 16-bit like VGA color mode, like maybe 256 colors. And it was very clear that my graphics drivers or something was just borked. And sometimes I would show Chad on a call, like Chad showing me a lot about Redshift lately and a little bit about Arnold, and I would have a question and I would be screen sharing with him, and literally he'd be like, is this your machine? Is this what's happening? Like, is my screen recording getting screwed up, or is this how slow your machine is? I'm like, no, this is the world I live in. And he's like, something's really wrong. So I did a lot of back and forth with AVA, which I should say has been really great through customer support on the phone. But we did have to end up just shipping it back to them to go through the whole machine once again, because we couldn't quite solve it through updating drivers. We couldn't solve it through the basic kind of stuff that was just software related. So I shipped it over. I was without my machine for a few weeks, which is the ultimate like screw up, right? Like that's the ultimate screw up for this whole PC experiment, is like, for an artist, if I were to be doing this for a living and charging my clients money to get this stuff done and I didn't have my machine for 3 weeks, that is the ultimate fail. Good news is I had my little iMac back up. Bad news is Redshift does not work on my little iMac very well. Arnold worked a little bit, but that's a different story. So why am I telling you all this? Well, I kind of consider it the part of me getting this PC is partly so I could finally play with these GPU renderers, but partly to share my little story with those of you out there who are looking to maybe jump into the PC world and some of the problems with it and some of the benefits of it. So I'll probably get into it in like a longer podcast, or maybe even a video describing more about this. But I just want to give you an update that when things break on a PC, the thing that is the most frustrating part about it right now is that there's really no ultimate company or brand that can look at it and say, we will fix it for you. Maybe there's another way to do that. Maybe there's another company we could deal with, or I don't know. Maybe I got to go get a Dell. I don't know the answer to this question. But the fact of the matter is that I had a basically broken machine, and nobody was willing or able to really fix it. And when it really came down to it, everyone pointed at each other. So, some people said it was me, it was my fault. I wasn't updating my drivers properly. Some people were saying, oh, it's the video card's fault. Some people were saying it was AVA's fault. Some people were saying it was, it was just that I don't know enough about PCs and that's on me. So what was frustrating about it was that I just wanted to sit and do work. And that's mostly what I get to do when I'm on my Mac. And the moral of the story right now is just that I had to send this back and then not have a computer for 3 weeks in order to get a working computer. So the good news coming out of all this is I finally have a PC that works. I'm speaking to you right now on my PC that finally flies. The issue they found was that the water cooler was apparently a notoriously bad water cooler. I have information on that too, by the way. Well, I want to hear this information. I want to know why they put a notoriously bad water cooler in my machine, first of all, but also like, does this stuff just happen? Like bad parts come along and then we all have to like ship our machines in and get them, redone? Am I having a particularly bad experience, or is this the life of a PC owner? What are your thoughts here, Chad?
So I've never, first of all, I have an AVA machine as well. So two things happened when I got mine. The first one being one of the GPUs died, which is fine. That happens. The unfortunate part was that I too had to ship my machine back to figure out what that was. So that was disappointing. But when I got the machine back, everything was fine. But this cooler, I have the same cooler. It's an ENERMAX cooler. It was loud as all hell. So I ended up replacing all the fans in the cooler with Noctuo fans just so that I could get work done and like not hear it in the mic. So I think a story broke a couple days ago, or maybe it was a week ago, where these ENERMAX coolers are failing for everybody. In fact, there's been some talk of recalls. And so I'm waiting for mine, which hasn't failed aside from the fans being loud. I'm waiting for mine to fail at some point now because these things are just really pretty poorly made from what I'm gathering. So it's to answer your question, it's not normal. It's not at all. I've never had this happen with any of my other machines before. I've never had to send a machine back before. So it's definitely not normal at all. I think the other thing to remember with your situation too was that you'd never done anything heavy in the PC world before, and you didn't have anybody that you could be like, hey, Chad, come over here and take a look at this. What's going on with this thing? So if you don't have anybody to troubleshoot it with you, and you're sort of on your own, that is really hard, because I think if I had been there and been able to say, wow, your temperatures are like insanely high, your machine's basically shutting down so it doesn't burn itself out. Like we
Right.
could have came to that conclusion earlier, and it may have meant that we wouldn't have had to send your machine back in, because we could have said, hey, look, the cooler's not doing its job. Oh, okay, well, we'll send you a cooler. And then I would have said, well, no, I'm not comfortable installing a cooler. You're going to have somebody do it, or you have to tell us where to
Right.
take it to do it.
Yeah, it gets really hard when you go custom and there's no Genius bar. Like there's no local store for you to just walk up to.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings me back to this. I had my iMac for a couple weeks there, right? I traveled a little bit in the middle, so it was okay. But when I came back to my iMac, I felt the love. Like I felt a little. It was looking at me sad, like it was a little sad that I left it in the corner for so long. But I instantly was like, okay, screw all this PC thing. Like this is not worth like, okay, yeah, my Formula One car is definitely super fast when it's working, but I need an entire team of people around me to make sure that this thing's humming. And as soon as it breaks, it's like 20 engineers need to go jump in and like jack up the tires and like fix my analogy. And so that's how I felt. I was like, that's fine. I'm gonna totally take a speed hit and gladly go get the Toyota Corolla and just drive all day, because that's all I want to do. Do not care about my engine. I do not care about how super duper fast everything is running. And I'm going to sit here on my iMac, which is just slow and steady, getting it done. Got all my nice little round edges, and I'm fine. I felt such frustration in that moment. Now, I'll give you another update after some time, but since then, I have a now working PC for the last, let's call it week or two. I think it's been about a week. And man, I have jumped into Redshift. I took the whole weekend and played with Redshift and just played with all of Chad's amazing new materials, which we'll talk about here in a second, and just loved it. I'm in love with this thing. If it stays like this and I don't have to update all this stuff and send it back and go through this whole headache, and this is just the world that I should have lived in for the last year, then I'll hopefully have a different tune. But I did want to share my frustration on the podcast to you guys, because in that moment, I was picturing myself as a freelancer and just seeing the money fall away as my clients are asking where their renders are. And I literally would have had no answer to them other than to go buy
That's a
another
terrible
$10,000 machine. And so again, I just wanted to share and be honest with you guys about my experience with this and kind of get your guys' thoughts, and Chad, your history with this, and just kind of give you a little update. Hopefully, everything's fine moving forward, and so much so that we are about to add 2 more PCs to the Grayscale Gorilla lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers that.
days ago.
Yeah, if anybody remembers that, my machine kind of died on us during an episode, a couple episodes back. We finally decided what machine to go with, and then it just happened that Todd was hired about the same time we found our spec. So I think we're both going with both going with new PCs.
Woohoo! All right.
I'm kind of like you, Nick. Like I come from the Mac world, and I have a lot of the same things. So this is going to be interesting, getting kind of comfortable with PC again. I haven't used one probably since like 2006. So,
well, let me tell you, like, as a personal thing, if you have any questions at all, please reach out at any time to Chad, and he will totally make sure. Just sorry, Chad.
It'll be like taking a call from my dad. Like,
yeah, just
how do I get the printer to work?
Just don't ask me. I have no idea. This thing, it fires up, it runs Chrome, and it runs Cinema 4D, and it runs Redshift, and that's all I care to do with this thing right now.
Just don't do what Nick did and install like third-party driver updaters and malware this. And
I didn't do that.
McAfee and like Norton antivirus on there.
I'm like, oh my God, what is happening right now?
Look,
don't do that.
LimeWire.
He's installing Winamp and stuff. Like,
well, you got to get the Winamp skins. What are you talking about? You can't just have a regular old Winamp without the new skins, man.
It's true. You got to get the visualizers going. All
right. Well, I'll have more updates soon for those of you who care. I did meet quite a few people at the not the roadshow, the 3D tour, and people coming up to me and asking me. That was like primarily their number one question is like, how's the PC going? Should I switch? How's Redshift doing? And so I just wanted to kind of use this moment to share a little bit more of that story, because it's an ongoing saga. And I'll give you more updates as it goes. But maybe this is a good time, since I got to play with all these amazing new materials, to talk about a little bit more about what's been going on at Grayscale Gorilla. We've been, frankly, a little quiet for the last few months. You may have been seeing more stuff about Plus and about all this stuff. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. We've been working so hard behind the scenes and not speaking enough to you guys about what is going on. So for those of you who haven't seen, let me give you just a quick little background on Grayscale Gorilla Plus, why we did this thing, and why it's so exciting right now to talk to you about it, and also tell you a little bit more about how Todd fits into this whole puzzle. So, we've been doing training and helping 3D artists for 10 years, right? Like, that was my vision to, literally leave my full-time job to sit and teach and learn and make tools to help the 3D artist. Every time I did something twice on my machine, I was frustrated, and I wanted to make a tool to speed it up. And there was also not enough training out there, so I wanted to solve that part. Well, 10 years later, we got obviously hundreds of hours of training. We have all this stuff happening. We have artists that that come up to us at every event and say that Grayscale Gorilla was a part of their career. And one of the things that everyone's always asking about us about is like more training, helping them at a higher level. All these people that we've helped for 10 years are now working in the industry. They're working in these studios. They're working with teams, and they're having questions about all that stuff. And so we started to build Grayscale Gorilla guides on our website to kind of help with that problem, like much higher, like more in-depth from teachers, that do this for a living. And we started making our guides, including our guide to X particles, guide to Redshift, guide to Cinema 4D. And those were awesome. Like, those were a huge hit. There was one problem with them, which was a lot of artists were asking, like, okay, by the time I get 2 or 3 of these, it gets kind of expensive. And what I really want is to just have it all. Like, I just want to get all the training, not only this stuff, but the new stuff that I know you're coming out with when there's R21 comes out. when Redshift updates come out, like, how do I just get everything? And so we listened to a lot of our customers and built what was originally only training. So we built Grayscale Gorilla Plus. We've been hard at work. The team, many of them are here on this call, have been hard at work behind the scenes building this platform to get Grayscale Gorilla Plus out as a training platform for 3D artists. And so we launched it, right? A couple months ago, we finally had it ready. It's kind of in its early stage, but we wanted to get some early users in there to say, like, hey, this is what we have in mind for the future of Grayscale Gorilla training. We want to give you all of it for one affordable price. Come join us. This is going to be huge. And man, it was even bigger than I thought it would like the word got out quicker than I even thought. And so we had a bunch of people join Grayscale Gorilla Plus, start, learning all this new software, start learning Redshift, start learning X particles. We dropped the Cinema 4D R21 training, and we looked at it, and we finally came to a moment where we're like, this is it. Like, this is the future of how we can help artists. And basically every idea that we have, whether it's a preset, it's a material, it's an overlay pack, every idea that we sit here and come up with to try to help an artist get their job done, we can now look at our Grayscale Gorilla Plus audience and literally offer it to them as a member. And once that happened, the whole thing unlocked. I know in my head, and I know we've talked about this behind the scenes, the ability for us now to just have good ideas and release it into the Grayscale Gorilla Plus platform has gotten me so excited on the potential of speeding up 3D work, making it more fun, easier to learn all this new software, and just to drop tools. So once that happened, man, we cranked up what Plus is. We cranked up what the vision of Plus was instantly. And so to do that, we did a few things. One is we hired Todd. Hi, Todd.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. So Todd, I wanted to learn, and kind of introduce you to our audience. Todd's been an incredible teacher for years. He's one of us, right? He's part of this entire online learning revolution, and we're excited to bring Todd to head up Grayscale Gorilla Plus. And I'm most excited to have him here to kind of get the word out about what we're trying to do at Plus, because there's so much that we're adding to Plus in the near future. There's so much we've just added in the last week, and Todd's going to be a major part of that moving forward. So Todd, I wanted to introduce you and also learn a little bit more about kind of where you came from. How did you originally get into all of this stuff with 3D and 2D? How did you end up here, I guess?
All right. So, so I'm kind of a filmmaker, cinematographer kind of guy who's always been just split right down the middle with that and motion graphics stuff. So I started out right out of high school working at a news station. I did a lot of graphics and promotional packages for a local CW affiliate, and moved on from there. I worked for a trailer house for probably about 5 years. There I cut and did the motion graphics for somewhere around 300 trailers for a bunch of different brands. And then I kind of just went into the freelance world for a while. And after that, started doing YouTube stuff. So I've been doing, for the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of YouTube tutorials about, motion graphics, filmmaking. I make a lot of assets and overlay packs and free stuff for, compositing and motion graphics, and free stuff for people to download. So I've been doing a lot of that for the last few years. And, more than anything, I'm just a dude who probably since my junior year of high school, I've been following what Grayscale Gorilla has been doing. So I'm super excited to be involved with it now. So this is an exciting time in the life of Todd.
I would also throw in the fact, so Todd and I have also worked together in the past before, and I would guarantee there's a good amount of you listening to this that probably have stumbled upon some of his free downloads and use them in your projects without even knowing. And then he's actually been involved with some of our releases. I know, Todd, you came on board, you helped us out with our dust bundle and area light maps.
Yeah. Y'all paid me to take pictures of lights for a couple days, so that was a nice
Probably like,
paycheck.
what am I doing this for? This
I
is
was like, really?
weird.
What are these
You
guys?
want me to do what
These
now?
guys are
Okay.
crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
we're excited to have you, man. And I know we're about to kind of talk a little bit more about what Plus is turning into, and kind of where it's going. But what you've been here, you've been here. What is it? 2 weeks now?
I think I'm on my third week.
Oh my!
I'm a veteran now.
That's old. You're old school, frankly. Why? So I can sit and talk about how exciting like Grayscale Gorilla Plus is, and we've done a lot of that behind the scenes. And I think too, just to talk to the audience for another second, like we've been so busy behind the scenes building all this stuff and working on it that we really haven't done a good enough job like turning around and talking to our audience. So that's why I'm excited to have you here, Todd, to like help explain this a little bit more, and also just kind of have the vision with us and make sure that our audience is getting everything they need to get their job done. So
yeah, I mean it's a lot. There's a lot going on with Plus. It's changed a lot over even the last couple of weeks, and I think to me one of the biggest things that we should do is just kind of provide a lot of clarity on what it is and what we plan to do, what's coming. And I mean, to me, I consider that priority number one for myself, is just making sure that anyone who's listening to this, if you are a Plus member, if you're not a Plus member, to me, it's really important that you kind of know what to expect. And I'm going to be chipping away at that as much as I can over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's important that even behind the scenes, that once we saw the success of Plus, once we saw how our audience was interacting with all this content, we were like, okay, we need to step this up. Frankly, like this experience needs to be easier to find things, easier to add things. We have so much stuff coming down the pipeline that we wanted to make sure that it was easy for all sides, for everybody, for us to add stuff, for our audience to find it, to go through these lessons and really like integrate this stuff into your workflow. Because just watching a video and then saying, "Oh, that's cool," is really not how things are how you learn things, right? It's like watching a guitar video without a guitar in your hand. You got to do it, and you got to practice it, and you got to like integrate it into your work. And so that's why I'm excited to have like all this training that is easy to follow along with, and we have so much more planned. So like I think we could, we could tease stuff all we want, Todd, but I think it's about time we could tell people like what's coming in Plus. I think we could. I know we're working on a video to be a little bit louder about that out in the world, but I think we could do it right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So first off, next week we're going to be dropping. Well, are we dropping this podcast this week?
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we're going to have some new training with Zach Corzine. He's going to be teaching us how to do some really epic, like insane looking procedural systems. Basically just these really cool kind of cloth, like photoreal sort of cloth renders that he did. You've probably seen that teased in a lot of the Grayscale Gorilla Plus advertising and stuff. And so you probably noticed that if you're a Plus member, you have access to the Modern Surface Material Collection.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that's when that got unlocked, that we're going to take this upcoming material pack that Chad, you've been like teasing. Like you did the best tease with that collection, by the way.
I'm a tease. What can I say?
I know. And look, every render that came out, everyone's like, "What? Just drop this." And so as soon as that clicked in our head, we were like, "What can we do for our Grayscale Gorilla Plus members?" Oh, I know. They're going to get our brand new material collection. And as soon as that happened in the company, I got to say, like the excitement for Plus and the excitement for other things we're including in Plus, like tripled. We were already excited about the platform, but that's when we were like, okay, this is it. This is going to be incredible. So that came out, was that 2 weeks ago, was the Modern Surface Material Collection?
Yeah.
Which I've been using nonstop. I've been using that nonstop. You know what I love about that? I can put and mix and match almost any of those materials, and they always look good together. I love
That's the idea.
Love that thing. Okay.
Good job,
So-
Chad. Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to. I'd love to talk more about the process and just that entire thinking of how that material collection came to be on another show.
Yeah, I would love that. The idea that they're mix and match and they work well together, I think, is kind of a new thing when it comes to materials. Like you've made great materials in the everyday material collection. But the fact that I could just like mix and match these and these color palettes, it's been really fun. And I put that is it terrazzo? How do you say that?
Terrazzo.
Terrazzo. You gotta do the whole accent with it. All right.
Yeah, you got to. Otherwise, it just doesn't sound cool.
That stuff just looks good. I've been putting that on my breakfast sandwich.
Yeah, and the other thing to note on that too is the training component that goes along with that material collection sort of fits right into the whole ethos of Plus, and I think that I was excited to put together a material collection that had a strong training component because I don't think that's ever been done. So I think that's also something pretty cool.
And there's training in there that you don't even, it's not even like 100% tied to specifically the material collection itself. There, you went a little above and beyond with the training there. That was good stuff.
Yeah, there's some advanced technique stuff, specifically in Redshift and Arnold, that I thought was a really good idea to put into this because I feel like anytime that we can show artists how to get more out of the tools they have or get more out of their scene files or just get more out of less is always a good idea. So some of these advanced techniques that I show in the training will help you get more, not just out of the material collection itself, but just out of renders in general and a different way to think about materials and rendering.
I would also mention that
Absolutely.
if you are not in Grayscale Gorilla Plus right now, we did drop a YouTube tutorial about color, changing the color of textures in materials. So definitely go check that out as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
All right. So, okay. I don't even know. Like, I didn't even clear this with the team guys, but we're gonna talk about a little bit about what's coming up in Grayscale Gorilla Plus, because that's I think the main question people have, and rightly so. It's like, okay, everything in here, I understand. I get the Redshift training and the Cinema 4D training, and okay, now you got the material pack. But like, if people are gonna come in and join a membership, they really want to know like what's happening in the future, what are the plans, and so maybe we can give them a little taste of like what is happening in the next month or so on Grayscale Gorilla Plus. What do you think, Todd?
Well, so yeah, I think so. So we just talked about how, you can, if you're a Plus member, you have access to the Modern Surface Material Collection. And if you keep an eye on things, maybe later on this month, you'll see another really great material collection.
Oh,
appear.
do you mean like a really a collection of materials that you would use like every day, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Probably everyday materials.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be cool if that was also included in Grayscale Gorilla Plus?
Nick, I think it might be. This started to feel very.
This is getting very weird, you guys.
we rehearsed this for hours beforehand.
It's like
but yeah.
bad, like radio, like stories.
Listen, I've always wanted to do an infomercial, guys. Like, I'm just trying to get it to where, like, there's gotta be a better way. So everyday material collection, right?
That's gonna happen. And then coming up, keep an eye out. We got some really, really epic Houdini training on the way. There's a lot of people that have been asking me about Houdini, and we got some of the best Houdini training in the biz. I guarantee it coming up. So yeah, keep an eye out for that.
Super stoked on that.
Yeah, I know, Chad. You've had your eye on the. You've been looking at the training already. I know it's getting closer to launch, and it's obviously one of the number one questions I get too, other than the dang PC, is like, should I be learning Houdini?
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that, like, for those of you that are sort of aware of my journey with Houdini, that's like start and stopped at least 3 times. The last time I tried, I was like, This just isn't for me. I just don't know if this is ever going to be for me. It's just not clicking. And I started watching our Houdini stuff, and I think this is the course that's going to click for everybody. It's going to be the course that's like, oh, I don't need to be afraid of it. Like this is actually a thing that I could do. I can do this. And I think that's really the powerful piece, the powerful thing to sort of take away from this new course.
Yeah, I'm like 10 layers of motion graphics knowledge away from being good at Houdini, and I feel like when I watch it, I'm like, you know what, I'm getting this. So I'm really excited about that one. That one's gonna be really epic for us.
Yeah, me too. And I've also, now that I have this working machine, I've been diving really deep into the Redshift training and just learning a lot more about that. So I'm actually taking some of my favorite pieces of what I've been learning in Redshift and pulling it out into like little individual clips. So there's a super robust, deep level training for Redshift inside of Plus right now. But I'm working on a few videos that's just like some of my favorite little things that how Redshift works and how quickly you can use it. I think once I figured out that you can kind of set up some presets with Redshift and not have to start from scratch all the time, it kind of sped up my workflow. So I wanted to share that a little bit with the Plus members. I'm going to be recording that stuff in the next week. So I think that's a little bit of a taste. I think we obviously have a lot more. That's just like the next month or two in the future, and probably more. But I think we could tease that far in the future for now. And then as soon as we have other stuff,
that's just a taste. There's more coming. We
Yeah.
got lots of cool stuff already in the works.
Yeah. So, and just to be clear, if you're already a member, you can go download the new material collection right now, and then just stay tuned for this stuff. We're gonna, send out emails obviously as soon as the new training drops. Man, I'm really excited about the core design training because that kind of looks like Houdini, what he's doing in there, but it's all with built-in Cinema 4D tools, right?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Little bit of Octane, little bit of using our material collection, a little bit of Cinema 4D. Yeah, it's a good mix of things.
All right. I think we should end like this. Chad, are you ready for this one? This is going to be big. Are you prepared?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Now, there's obviously huge news with Redshift now being owned by Cinema 4D and Maxon. Where are you on the kind of the render situation that's happening right now? Because we're obviously building training. We have, Arnold in mind, we have Redshift in mind, and Octane in mind for Grayscale Gorilla Plus. But where are you these days on what renderer you're using on your work?
I'd say so. All of the modern surface material collection renders were done in Arnold. It's definitely my favorite, and I've been testing. I'm lucky enough to be on the beta for Arnold 6.0, which I'm actually using in a lot of my stuff right now. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're not over. I feel like every render has its own sort of pluses and minuses, and it really kind of depends on the work that you do. All the same stuff that we've sort of talked about and wrote blog posts about. But I will say that traveling to the different cities for the Maxon 3D artist, I'm going to forget the name again. I'll just say the tour. Just call it the tour. And I would say that it's one thing that I've been hearing from a lot of different people is just this need to create content for ridiculous sizes. That's something that came up multiple times. People doing experiential design, experiential animations on giant screens that exist in public spaces. And I think a challenge that a lot of these GPU renderers have is being able to render these gigantic outputs. Whether or not they can even hold it in video memory is a problem. And so I think that there's still a place for CPU rendering in a lot of people's workflows because it is a more sort of tried and true production tested method of rendering. You can throw anything at a CPU render, it's gonna chug through it. So I don't think that, and with the new stuff that AMD's doing on the chipset side, it's definitely like a growing. It's still a thing that I think is a viable solution for rendering. So I'd say for my personal work, I'm using Arnold because I just absolutely love the way it looks. I love how predictable it is. I love the features. The speed is like, if I have a Threadripper, so the speed isn't really that big of a deal. The GPU version, I'm seeing very good improvements on. Still not out of beta yet, but it's really getting there. And what I love about it is that I can switch back and forth from CPU to GPU, which is something that I don't think a lot of people really understand the importance of that. So if you're at home, let's say on a really beefy GPU system, and you're doing your look dev on the GPU version of a renderer, and you're like, yeah, this is looking great. And maybe you're a freelancer and you don't have a render farm. So you want to get this job done. Now you have to render out, let's say, 500 frames, 2K, whatever the crazy size is. Now you could do it locally, which is going to just eat up all your time on your machine, or you could try to throw it to a cloud. But a lot of cloud solutions, the GPU versions of these cloud solutions are kind of expensive, and they also are a bit buggy. Like GPU rendering is buggy. So imagine being able to say, okay, I'm going to render locally on my GPU, do all my cool look dev, and then when I'm ready to send it to a farm, I'm going to switch it to CPU, and I'm going to render on, let's say, PixelPlow using their crazy CPU farm. So now you just did like what not very many. If I'd say that maybe a RenderMan is the only one that can like truly do this. Actually, I take that back. I think Cycles actually might be able to do this as well. But that's a really cool thing, right? I mean, to be able to like switch and be able to choose what's going to work best for your job when it comes to like getting it done. And I think that's a really cool thing.
All right, that sounds like the holy grail. I'm sure it won't end there either, but I wanted to kind of catch up on that because I heard a lot of people asking questions about that too during the Maxon tour. Is like, what's Chad up to? I thought he was like all Redshift all the time. Let's go, and now I see he's doing Arnold. So I wanted to like get your thoughts on that because it's obviously we're still in a place where we're picking the right thing for the right job. But I think we're all clear though that they're like these three renders are still the major ones right now, like Octane, Arnold, Redshift. They all have their pluses and minuses, but that's still like the three that we should all look at as an artist. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. I was just talking to Trevor, who teaches our Redshift course with me, and I think he's in the same boat. Like he's working on a job right now where he has shots in one particular job that are rendered in Octane, Redshift, and Arnold. Just because of like the nature of the shots. He's like splitting up the job into these different renders. Now, I know not everybody can afford to do that, to own all three, but that is sort of like the best. If you can afford it, that is a really great way to approach it. Like, okay, which one is perfect for this particular shot, strengths, weaknesses, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that's where we're still getting a lot of questions like, "What's the one I need?" And then I could just not think of it again. And I don't think we're quite there yet. So, that's always again what we're learning and what we're researching here and trying to figure out and make that part as easy as we can make it. So, that's exciting. I've been looking at Arnold even more, especially since I didn't have my PC for 3 weeks. It's like, what do I do now? I got my cute iMac here, but I got no GPU. So yeah, obviously still not done. So that's a stuff I'll kind of keep asking you because I know you got your finger a little bit closer to all these renders. You're on the beta on some of this stuff, so I appreciate you filling us in, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can wrap up here a little bit. As always, I wish we had a little bit more time. So let's definitely do another one of these podcasts very soon. I did want to say, Todd, welcome to the Grayscale Gorilla team. We're so excited.
Thank you
you're here,
very
buddy.
much. I am excited as well.
Whoop, whoop.
You got through your first 3 weeks and got through your first podcast. I think we're off to the races, buddy.
All right.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always. And look, I say this at the end of a lot of the podcasts. We appreciate you listening. If you're listening and you want to help us out, get the word out, please give us a review over on the iTunes. And if you're listening on YouTube, give us the thumbs ups or whatever YouTube wants you to do. They want you to ring a bell now. I don't know. Go do that stuff if you want to hear more. And just thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in another Grayscale Gorilla podcast really soon. Bye, everybody.